In the beginning there was Eros, and life was its will. The Dragonfly, Part 3, Middle Age. Interior plain. Georgina looks soulfully out of the window at the vast sepulchral pillars of a spectacular cloud formation. Zoom into the clouds and cut to an animated fairy tale in the style of the 1970s TV program Bagpuss. We hear the voiceover of Gerard. The Impetuous Princess. Once upon a time, long, long ago, in the land of cumulus nimbus, there lived an impetuous princess. The impetuous princess was very rich and wanted for nothing, except, that is, for someone who truly loved her. Now one day a beautiful bluebird, whose feathers were as blue as sapphire, flew up and landed in the princess's garden, in her castle in the clouds. Beneath her window, in the bough of the giant bluebell tree, the bluebird began to sing. The impetuous princess thought it the most lovely song that she had ever heard, for it told of her fairness and beauty, and of the bird's love for her. She was filled with joy, and before long she invited the bluebird to take her hand in marriage, and come and share her kingdom with her. The bluebird, who really loved her very much, gladly accepted. Now the princess's father was a wise old king, and he warned her to beware. 'Tis said that as long as the bird remains blue, his words will be true. But should his plumage ever fade or change colour, then you must take no heed of what he says, for he will no longer love you, but will love another. And so it was that every day the impetuous princess, who had never before been a suspicious or jealous person, looked carefully whilst the bluebird sang, to make sure that his plumage remained as blue as sapphire. Now one day it happened that a comet appeared over the land of cumulus nimbus, and as it travelled through the sky it left behind an invisible trail of very fine dust. The dust floated high up into the atmosphere, and when the sun rose the next day, something very strange indeed happened. In the eerie light of the new dawn, everything that was blue had turned green. The sky was green, the beautiful blue flowers of the bluebell tree were green, and guess what? The bluebird's glinting sapphire feathers had turned emerald green. Lying in her bedchamber, the princess listened as usual to the bird's sweet song, and was filled with the love she had for him. But when she threw open her window to let the bird in, she saw to her horror that the bluebird's plumage had changed colour. Remembering her father's words, she was furious at her betrayal. Seizing the bird at once, she began, one by one, to pluck the faithless feathers from his body. When the poor bluebird caught sight of his naked, skinny, trembling little form in the princess's mirror, he dropped dead at once from shock. Falling to the floor, there the bluebird lay, surrounded by emerald green feathers. Still filled with anger, the impetuous princess reached out to pick up one of the feathers. And as she did so, she heard a loud commotion outside. "The sky is green! The sky is green!" shouted the townsfolk in unison. "Look how green the flowers of the bluebell tree are!" cried out an old woman. Leaning out of the window, the impetuous princess saw to her horror the green sky, and looking down below, the green flowers of the bluebell tree, and at once a most dreadful fear came over her. High above, the comet continued on its journey away from the land of cumulus nimbus. "Look, look!" the crowd shouted in unison again, "how the comet passes, and the sky turns back to blue." And as the princess looked to where the bird lay, she saw each and every feather turn gradually from emerald green to light green to pale blue and to the most beautiful sapphire blue. "What have I done? Oh, what have I done?" she wailed. "How could I have doubted the bird that so loved me? How could I have been so selfish, so cruel, so foolish, so unkind?" Day by day, love no longer in her heart, the princess stayed in her chamber and grew sadder and sadder and sadder, and weaker and weaker. "Without the bluebird I no longer have the will to live," she thought to herself, and staring up at the moon, with a big tear rolling down her cheek, she fell asleep, with the bluebird's feathers laid upon the pillow beside her head. In the middle of the night, a wondrous thing happened, and suddenly the princess heard the sound of the bluebird's song, and her heart was at once filled with the most indescribable joy. Leaving her bed, she drifted across to her open window, and to the thrilling sound of the bluebird's song, she ascended high into the celestial heavens. Next morning, when the maid entered the lady's chamber, she rushed to the princess's bed, for there she lay, as white and cold as alabaster, whilst a gentle breeze through the open casement window lifted the bluebird's feathers in a slow spiral about her head.